Hi everybody. We're gonna paint today an imagined landscape. Um, we're gonna paint a Venice inspired landscape. We're not gonna use any reference image. We're just gonna kind of play with our imagination to try and paint something that resembles what we all think of Venice when we bring that word into our mind. And we're gonna try to paint it in a kind of in a sunset atmospherical way. So we're gonna paint a really warm sky, and then we will paint a few buildings against the light, and we will paint a little portion of water where we will place a few boats and a few reflections and things like that. Okay, so first time I am preparing this mixture of Pyrrol Scarlet and some Quinacridone Gold. Mostly Pyrrol Scarlet at this point because I want it to be really red, and I will add more water and more Quinacridone Gold as I go down. So it's let's say thicker on top of the image. There's plenty of water in the paper, so the mixture is traveling down without any kind of opposition, let's say. And I'm gonna leave a small gap now, and then I'm gonna move to Cobalt Blue to paint the water. But first I will just mix a little bit of Quinacridone Red into the Cobalt Blue just to make it a little bit warmer on the closer to the light, let's say. And then as I go down I will add more Cobalt Blue to the mixture. So a few parts of the water are gonna be kind of reflecting the sunlight, so they're gonna be warm, let's say, and the rest is gonna be cold. Now I am gonna get slightly wet brush, but mostly dry, and I'm gonna leave some paint here on this exactly at this line. As you can see, there's a little bit of warm color below this line, but the most part of the warm color is on top of this line. I want this to be kind of like my horizon, let's say, and I am imagining that there's this kind of foggy atmosphere on top of the water, that it's kind of blurring the buildings in the distance. So that's why I lifted some paint here, and then you will see that I'm going to paint the buildings above that lane, and as I go towards that lane I will kind of blend them in. I will kind of make them disappear, let's say. I am just adding a few brush strokes to suggest the idea of water movement here. I added a little bit of neutral tint to the Cobalt Blue. I am using a smaller brush because I don't want it to have a lot of water. If I go here with a bigger brush with a lot of water, it's gonna open too much on the paper and it's gonna ruin this part of the painting, and I don't want that. So small brush, thick paint, but with a little bit of water in the brush, but small brush, so it's not completely, let's say, damp with water, with too much water. Just a few brush strokes like this will suggest the idea of a wavy, let's say, water in these parts. I'm just lifting a few highlights here and there with a dry brush like this. This is gonna dry in any case, and the water is kind of wet, so everything is gonna mellow down quite a lot, and later I will have to work the water in any case, but I want to give this first impression like this. Okay, so I just dried the paper. and now I'm gonna start painting the buildings. I'm gonna paint them on top of this kind of blurry line that we laid before, that we saved before, and I'm using just a mixture of some cobalt blue with a little touch of neutral tint, and some of the red that I mixed for the sky before. I want it to be present in the mix just a little bit, but it's basically kind of like a warm gray, let's say. We're painting against the light. I don't want it to be too thick, so it's a dark color, let's say, but there's some water in it. I'm using a small brush so I don't lay a paint which is too let's say too thick on the paper. But I'm using this small brush in order to make it, let's say, kind of like transparent. I want it to be dark but transparent nevertheless. So I am painting the top shape of those buildings, of these buildings. There's a dome here, and I leave small gaps here and there to suggest the idea of some architectonical details. Again, this is just made up, so we don't need to worry about what we're doing. It's just about building a shape that resembles a building, and to leave some room for interpretation, for imagination to work, and that's it. I'm stopping before the blurry line, and I'm gonna blend the line of the buildings with the blur, let's say, with this kind of foggy atmospherical fog that we laid before, using some water now and a different brush. So I just have some water on this brush, and I'm just moving the paint that I laid before towards that blur, let's say. I want a soft edge here, like this, and then with a paper tissue I kind of clean and leave some paint on top of the blur, because I really want this border to kind of get lost. Later we might add some information there, but at the moment I kind of want to preserve this lighter foggy section of the paint. I want to paint another section of building here on the left side of the painting. There's a little bit more red into the mix and a little bit more water, because I want this to be kind of further away, let's say. So there's more atmosphere between the buildings and the viewer, and it's kind of a softer, let's say, mixture of color because of that. Again, I use another brush to blend in what I laid before into the fog. I use the same brush to leave some paint here and there on the other side. And now we can start suggesting the idea of reflection in the water. Maybe some people will see it as a reflection, some other people will see it as distant boats, piers, whatever it's on the ground in these parts. And now I will add some information within the blur, let's say within the fog. I am constantly touching the painting with my fingers, because in these parts I don't want to have, let's say, a defined detail, so I want everything to be kind of a little bit lost and found. Maybe some architectonical details in the dome and some other areas. I want now to paint a boat in the water. We're gonna work the water area right now. I want to paint a boat in the on the left side of the painting. So I'm using the same mixture I used for the water. I just added a little bit more neutral tint in order to get a thicker mixture of and darker mixture of painting. I'm using a small brush. I don't want too much water in my brush. I want to control my brush strokes. Let's say this is a gondola. Okay, we're just making this up. Okay, no stress about making anything perfect. And whenever we paint a boat in the water, we have to pay attention to the area where the boat meets the water. Normally the boat and the reflection, they're kind of connected, and you don't see where one starts and on the other ends. So as soon as I lay the boat, I start working the reflection. I want the two of them to be connected. I just leave small gaps here and there to suggest the idea of water which is in movement. And that's it, nothing too fancy. We will work the rest of the water later. We want to give it more texture, okay? But for the moment, we're just focusing on the boat. Maybe the boat leaves a trail in the water. The person in the boat also leaves a reflection. And now we can start working maybe some distant boats here, slightly lighter mixture because it's further away. And we can also start working some reflections for the buildings on top will reflect on the water. The reflection is kind of darker the closer to us, and also I want to suggest the idea of the foggy atmospherical water what we talked about before. As I go closer to the horizon with the reflection, I'm gonna make it lighter because I really want the foggy atmosphere to be there. So up here everything is a little bit lighter than the closer to the viewer, let's say. I'm gonna add some details now to the buildings here. And now we're gonna give some depth to the painting. We're gonna paint a boat here, like really close to the viewer. Maybe this boat is kind of, it's stopped on a pier where the viewer is standing. So it's also nice because you can also create some tension and directionality with the boat. The way it's positioned, you know, it's like pointing towards the other gondola in a way. So we create some tension with and also depth, including this boat here, and now a little bit more directional lines with these ropes that it's holding the boat towards the shore. And then we can also paint also here close to us, the foreground, a few of the, you know, these posts that there are all around the place in Venezia where the boats are kind of tied up. These wooden posts that you can see in the water. So we're gonna dry brush a few of them like this, and these sometimes are really like, some are larger than others and not completely, let's say, vertical, so you don't have to paint them like with perfect vertical lines. This one is behind the boat, and some of them are in front of the boat, let's say. And this also creates some kind of movement and tension in the painting that we are like imagining here. Another one here, maybe a few more ropes. And then we can work the water a little bit more to kind of, I want to darken it a little bit, the closer to the viewer. We're gonna do it now. Okay, so we're gonna darken the water on this part of the painting. This way we're gonna also build some depth and also give some texture to this water, which it's still a little bit too flat, let's say. So the closer to us this kind of water ripples are like bigger, and the further we go, the lighter and smaller they are. Nothing too fancy. This is just about creating some texture. We're gonna take the tape off now and see how it's going, and maybe later we work the water a little bit more. So just a few more touches of this blue and neutral tint mixture in order to enhance the idea of depth and also movement in the water. And this is it. I think it's a nice exercise to paint without any kind of reference image. It frees the mind because you don't have to replicate something that you have in front of you. You can play with your imagination, you can be free while painting, and I really encourage you to paint like this every now and then, to make these exercises from memory, let's say. It's kind of liberating and it's a lot of fun. So hope you had fun as well, and see you soon.